Full decision from the referee. Now a chance now for the number 16 to come forward here. Can Tom gets that ball in very well. Chances here. Still back right. And now for Rochdale. They've done it again. It's 2-2. Would you believe it? Davis on substitute. And Rochdale get what they totally and utterly deserve. Scotland Yard fan. Rochdale.
Hello everyone, it's Mad Claret 94 here today, bringing you another episode of LTF. It's kind of becoming a monthly thing rather than a weekly thing, but as usual, I am joined by John Stoddard, or JB Claret as he's known on YouTube, the great footballing commentator. I'm pretty sure I covered that last time. How are you doing, John? I'm
doing very well. Not just a great commentator, but a great aftershave seller. I've started selling aftershave for Essence. So if anyone out there would like to buy my products, I have a Facebook page, John's Beautiful Fragrances at Essence. You can contact me and we'll sort some pairings out. All £20, by the way. Okay, little plug there for Essence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I gave him like 20 seconds to say his bit. So obviously the last time we did this was end of December,
Christmas,
more or less. It was a Christmas special as such. And we talked about, we jinxed Burnley basically is what happened, because we had to genuinely discuss them as top 6 contenders, and since then they haven't won a match. So we're not going to do that until last, and we're going to be discussing their form. But we've got 4 topics today. The first one we'll start off with is Ryan Mason. Obviously, we need to give a brief mention to him. He was one of the up-and-coming talents of the English game, and unfortunately has been forced to retire due to his skull injury he sustained against Chelsea when he clashed heads with Gary Cahill in a freak accident. Because you could do that, you could go up for a corner a million times and you wouldn't come away with that bad an injury. You're probably the worst case scenario would you'd end up looking like Terry Butcher with a bloody bandage around your head. But to be forced to retire for going in, being fully committed at a corner is a bit of a sad story, unfortunately, which is a shame, because he was a promising young lad. He got himself a cap for England, came through at the same age group as Harry Kane, and unfortunately he's had to retire due to that injury. So our thoughts go out to him. Obviously, I'm sure he will have plenty of other opportunities in life. He's still young enough to pick something else up. Maybe he'll go into punditry. Maybe he'll help the academies. Who knows what he'll do? But he's got plenty of time to.
And he's got plenty of money behind him as well, because he learned a lot out of the game as well.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll be okay financially, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But the PFA, and this is what the PFA have to do now, because he's had to retire. They need to look after him, because he's still, he'll be on that sort of list, won't he? The PFA's radar. So they've got to really sort of get together with him and sort of liaise in what direction he wants to take now he's retired. And I think that would be a good option for the PFA, and actually to get a little bit of good PR for the PFA as well, because they haven't had good PR for quite a long time now, the professional PFA, really, haven't they? So
yeah. And obviously our thoughts go out to Gary Cahill as well. Apparently he hasn't taken very well to the news, obviously, because he was the one who he clashed heads with. But yeah, it's part and parcel of the game. Everyone's risking themselves when they go onto the pitch.
It's not just. Let me just say, it isn't just football that happens. It happens in rugby.
Yeah.
It happens in horse racing when jockeys fall off the horses and they have serious life-threatening injuries. It happens in a lot of sports of that physical nature.
Yeah, and there's a lot of this nonsense about football being a non-contact sport, but I don't think it is, and this is a perfect example as to it quite clearly is a contact sport in that. And
also, I want to make sure. Remember. Cricket's a sport where you can get injured, and I know it's a gentle game, but remember the Australian cricketer Philip Hughes? Yeah. He got hit on the head by a stray ball or a bouncer in an Australian county game, and he sadly died at 25 years old.
Wasn't it? The chances of it hitting that spot very, very slim. You could aim for it and you'd miss. But
even in cricket, it's still a dangerous sport, even though it's not a physical game. Even though it's supposed to be a gentle game, there's still a lot of danger involved. Certainly, if you're a batsman facing like Glenn McGrath, for example, you know what I mean.
I think it's a little bit harsh to compare the two, because obviously Ryan Mason's still got, he's still alive. So, but with sport,
I'm just making Chris, I'm just making the point that it's not just football that sustain these sort of injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, you see jump jockeys, when they fall at Beeches Brook in the Grand National, you see jockeys stretched off after they fall at Beeches in the Grand National and things like that.
When you're at the pinnacle of sport, you're putting yourself at risk, regardless of how much contact there is in the sport, because anything can happen on a sports field, track, or whatever. But as we say, our thoughts go out to
yeah, of course. I echo those sentiments entirely. I was just going to say, it's an unscripted soap opera, really, sport. It really is.
It is. Well, you get moments like this, and then you end up with moments like Leicester or various others. But yes, Ryan Mason. It's a shame because he was a promising talent.
It is. It's a sad shame.
These things happen, but I'm sure he'll be able to find something else to do with his life, because he's still young. He's got plenty of time to find something else, as we say.
Oh yeah, he's got time. That's the good thing about it. Time's on his side, and he'll come back as a stronger person for it. And I wish him and his family all the best, all future success, whatever he does.
Me too. It's as we say, it's one of those things that happens in football, and unfortunately, Ryan Mason's the one to cop it this time. But we'll see what happens with him. You never know. He might come back in non-league given a few years. We'll see what happens. But it was what the latest doctor said to him, because he was 100% certain up until this latest scan that he was going to make a comeback, and the latest thing that the doctor said is that he shouldn't. So give it a few years. It might heal up a bit better, and he might come back. But it looks as if he's never going to step foot on a professional pitch again. Might see him in a few charity games, perhaps, but as we say, unfortunately, he's had to retire because of it. Now, moving on, we're going to move on to a very different touchy subject in terms of Jay Rodriguez. Now, it's fairly old news now at this point, although the latest on it is that Jay Rodriguez has been given a 3-week extension to the appealing process of it, or his response, should I say, to being charged for racially abusing Bong of Brighton. He's
very apt name, isn't it?
Yeah, he's allegedly said that you're black and you stink, and that was while he was holding his nose. Now, this topic is obviously very touchy, because we've seen players in the past who have been banned for being racist. Luis Suarez is a recent example, I suppose, along with his biting. But yeah, Jay Rodriguez. Now, I mean, I don't want to say, as Burnley fans, we probably have a better perspective of what he's like than other clubs. Obviously, he's been at Southampton and obviously currently West Brom. I'm sure Southampton fans would vouch for him as well. But I can categorically say that Jay Rodriguez is not a racist. It's not in his character. He was a very quiet lad, as it was when he was at Burnley. He was, didn't really see him shouting too much. A little bit towards the end of his spell, obviously, as he grew in confidence. But he's a very quiet-natured individual who just lets his football do the talking in most cases. Obviously, he's had a terrible injury recently, which he'd come back from, and then subsequently moved from Southampton to West Brom, where he's certainly been in a rich vein of form. And just as things were looking up for him, he's been slapped with this ridiculous charge that is... Well, he said himself he's shocked and amazed, and says that it is absolutely false, and that he's consulting a legal team, and quite rightly so.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
If somebody's going to falsely accuse somebody of being racist, the person who has falsely accused that person could be done for slander, because that's
and also bringing the game into disrepute as well.
Yeah, to an extent, but you're trying to ruin somebody else's reputation. Because you think that they said something to you. Now, I've looked at various things about the incident. I've tried to look for video footage, but there's not much of it, obviously, because it's currently being investigated. So anything that goes up gets taken down fairly quickly. There's a lot of photos, obviously, of Jay Rodriguez doing that to him. But I mean, TalkSport mentioned it briefly as well, and their show's very hit and miss when it comes to their sports coverage. But there's no actual concrete evidence of what he said. From everywhere that I've looked and everyone I've heard talk about it, there's nobody who can actually categorically confirm that is what he said. A lot of people are saying that it was probably along the lines of "your breath stinks," if that, at worst. But to turn that into a racial abuse claim is, well, it's ridiculous, quite frankly.
Well, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Right, every Premier League match, whether it's live or highlights, every match is televised, right?
Yeah.
And at every televised match, there's about 30 pitch side cameras around the pitch, right?
Yeah.
Now, we've heard nothing on those microphones, and they are quite loud, to suggest there's been any racial evidence from Jay Rodriguez, or whether Rodriguez has said anything. There's been no evidence, concrete, but even from the pitch side microphones. Now, they would have picked that up straight away if there had been something said.
Well,
We've heard nothing.
You would have thought that the players around, if they'd have heard that, would have said something. You know? But
exactly.
nobody.
I don't know where Bong. I don't know what Bong is trying to achieve here by trying to dob Rodriguez in it. I don't know whether he's trying to play the race card to try and. I don't know. I mean, fair enough. I'm not a racist. I'm not a. I've got time for every creed, every colour of skin. We're all human beings. That's fair enough. But I don't know what evidence Bong has got in his favour to suggest that Jay Rodriguez is guilty, because Bong, I think, to be quite honest, I think he's trying to make an example out of someone that is a very quiet individual, as you just said, Jay Rodriguez. He gets, as you say, he lets the football do the talking. We've seen this at Burnley and at other clubs. He's not one of those guys. He's a nice lad. I sort of know his family because of my best mate, so I've sort of like got a little invested interest in it. J-Rod is not the sort of person that would go and make racist comments. He's a Burnley lad, and we're not like us Lancashire lads. We're not like that. So
you've also got to consider that he comes from a bit of a, it's probably a strong term, but a multicultural background in terms that he's half Spanish as well. So
of course. So I don't know what substance Bong has got in his allegation, because, it's, as far as I can make out, it's his word against J-Rod's.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I think the FA. This is what I think the FA should do: throw the case out. Because there is absolutely, and I'm going to say this on record, and I don't care what people think, I don't care what people will say in the comments below, whatever. Here is my verdict. There is no evidence to suggest that Jay Rodriguez whatsoever has been making racial allegations against Bong. There's absolutely no evidence on the microphones around the pitch. There's no evidence that he said anything. You need to be a bloody good lip reader if you can actually make that out. It's just a joke, and I think the FA should just throw the case out and give Bong a slap on the wrist, or give him a fine or something, because I don't know where his allegations are unfounded. He's just playing the race card to get a really nice, quiet lad into trouble and put his reputation on the line. Now, this is not me being biased. This is me being honest. Right, yeah. And this is me. I've followed Jay Rodriguez for his entire career, and I know you have too.
Yeah.
And I just find it odd that Jay Rodriguez would actually put his reputation on the line just because he's not that sort of character. And I'm sorry, but I don't buy what Boggy's saying. I don't know whether I don't know. I think Brighton are just. Well, I don't know. He's playing the race card to make a mountain out of a drama out of a crisis, and I think the whole thing stinks. And I think Brighton.
Ironic of putting it that way.
I tell you what, if Rodriguez is not, here's what I think should happen to Bong, right? If Rodriguez is not guilty, right, which I think I've got a very good feeling that he won't be found guilty. Here's what Brighton should do, and the FA. They should blow the book at Bong. They should give him a ban. First of all, the FA should give him a ban, and I honestly think Brighton should fine him and dock him about 3 or 4 weeks' wages.
I don't think Brighton would do that, but I think.
Yeah, but they need to make an example out of him. If Bong is in the wrong, right, and that's no pun intended, if he's in the wrong, then Brighton and the FA need to make an example of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think. Jay Rodriguez also hired a lip reader to help his case, I imagine. But obviously, the thing is with lip reading, you get all these comical videos, particularly the NFL recently. They had the Super Bowl. Generally, what comes with NFL is the funny lip reading alternatives of what they've said. And that's the thing with lip reading. You can't be 100% certain what they have said through lip reading. If they were to take this to court and go, well, he could have said one of three things based on what I've seen. So they can't be 100% certain what he said. If the microphones haven't picked it up, then you can't use that. For the fact that other people haven't reacted to it.
The point is, Chris, there are 30 pitch-side microphones up and down that pitch. Now, you'd have thought if Jay Rodriguez had said something, at least 2, maybe 3 of them would have picked what he was saying up.
The thing is, it wasn't until well after the match that this has come out. This is the thing, which is kind of a little bit strange. You would have thought that sort of thing would come out immediately. The ref apparently took a note of it because it was alleged, so he didn't see reason to act. And I would have thought that would have been enough, to be honest, if the referee has said, I didn't hear anything. Surely that should be. But in terms of, I don't believe for a second that Jay Rodriguez is guilty. I think it's a silly case that's going on here.
I'll tell you something, Chris. I'll tell you something now, right? If the FA, by some miracle, find Jay Rodriguez guilty, they must be absolutely off their trolleys. As if they've not been off their trolleys enough this year, or this last few years. It would be an absolute disgrace.
It would. The thing with this is that they have to do something. So if they don't punish Jay Rodriguez, they then have to punish Bong for essentially trying to ruin somebody else's reputation. And
well, I think that's what should happen.
What I reckon will happen.
I think Bong should have the foot thrown at him.
Well, if I'm honest, the way that this should be dealt with, in my eyes, is that it should be treated like simulation, like diving, because you're essentially trying to deceive match officials just at a higher level. So it should at least be the equivalent of a diving ban if it was to be found a completely fraudulent accusation. And what I heard on TalkSport was that there also could be the whole misunderstanding, because obviously Bong's not English. But there's that it could be lost in translation if you believe that, which I think is the way of getting out of jail free without either of them being punished, but still being slanderous towards Jay Rodriguez and not getting punished. That's probably what would happen if there was to be anything slapped back at Bong. Mm-hmm. But as I say, I would be very surprised if Jay Rodriguez was found guilty. I just don't think it'll happen. Obviously,
I agree.
We don't agree with racism here. Obviously,
of course we don't. I mean, when I started my rant just now, I said from the outset, I said from the very beginning, I have a lot of friends who are black or African or Asian. I've got a good rapport with the Asian community and all that sort of thing, and I get on brilliant with them. There's no racial abuse. It's all peace and harmony as far as I'm concerned. Everyone is still the same. We're all human. We're all the same, whether we're race, English, Spanish, African, whatever. We're all the same. We're all the same. We're all human beings. God created us all.
Yeah, if by some miracle Jay Rodriguez was found guilty, obviously I would be a little bit dumbfounded.
Gobsmacked would be the word, I think.
I probably still wouldn't believe it, because I don't. Like I said, it's not in Jay Rod's character, and I just don't. It isn't. It would
absolutely disgraceful. I think it's disgraceful. I really do, and
I'm sure Southampton fans would back us up on that, and West Brom fans.
Southampton, and I think we've had a few. I've watched on social media. Even, West Brom, they've backed him as well. Pardew's backed him.
Well, DT on Arsenal Fan TV, when he was doing his work for another YouTube channel, said that there's no evidence at all. You can't call somebody guilty.
He's right.
No
He's
evidence.
Absolutely correct.
So, there's a lot of people sitting there going, well, unless he can prove it, then there's nothing to see here. But like I said, I think if Jay Rod's found innocent, Bong should be punished in some way or form through trying to, because that can stain someone's career.
Of course it can.
Jay Rodriguez may never get picked for England again based on the fact that he could have been a racist. So You know,
You know what? It's an absolute disgrace. And if Bong is found guilty, I hope they all throw. I hope the FA do throw the book at him, and absolutely, and also Brighton fine him wages, and hopefully the FA will see sense and fine Brighton as well a few quid. And they're not exactly. I'll tell you something else now. Brighton players aren't exactly angels themselves. I mean, Glenn Murray's just been arrested for tax evasion or something or other. So they're not exactly angels. And this is not me being anti-Brighton. This is not a vendetta of what happened in the Championship promotion push a few years ago when they tried to cheat us out.
We wouldn't have the god that is Ashley Barnes. So I've got plenty of respect for Brighton in that regard.
Yeah, I think the football club should have the book thrown at him if he's found guilty as well. Just say.
Well, we'll see what happens. As we say, he's got a 3-week extension for his response to the FA charge. The fact that they've charged him,
that's a disgrace in itself.
I'm still kind of like sat there like, well, I suppose they're giving him a chance to prove his innocence, and I dare say he's got plenty of stuff to back him up. And I did love the fact that West Brom immediately came out and said, no, we're backing the player. Absolutely no chance of us sitting there. I was just like,
that's great. That's good. It's great.
Liverpool did similar with Suarez, although they did it in a much worse fashion, because obviously he was found guilty and they continued to back him in a rather interesting way. But West Brom were very quick to back him and said that we're 100% behind the player and we're 100% confident that he'll be found innocent. So, I think
good on him.
The next 3 weeks is going to be very interesting because obviously somebody's going to get wronged here. So either J-Rod will be wronged because he'll be unfairly banned, because I don't feel like there's any evidence out there to say that he has said what he does and it's not in his character, or Bong's going to feel wronged because apparently he was racially abused and somebody's got away with it. So it'll be an interesting 3 weeks, that's for sure.
It will.
But we'll move on from that topic now. Obviously, we've had plenty to say on it. I'm sure other people will have plenty to say on it as well. Southampton fans, West Brom fans,
Yeah, get in touch.
Just what your thoughts on it, because I'm pretty sure you have the similar thoughts as we do. Rodriguez was a very quiet lad as it was, so for him to say anything out of terms is a very ridiculous accusation. But anyway, let's move on. We're going to move on now to obviously we are now mid-February, basically, by the time this video goes out, and obviously the transfer window has been and gone since we last did an LTF episode, and there were a few interesting moves in the window. Obviously, the main one was Alexis Sanchez going from Arsenal to Manchester United, and for Burnley fans, obviously Aaron Lennon came to Burnley, which was also an interesting move.
Yes, it was.
And there weren't many major moves. Obviously, Chelsea got linked with every target man there was.
I think they even got linked with Ashley Barnes at one point.
They got linked with Ashley Barnes and Peter Crouch. That is the level we're talking. So it was certainly an interesting window. But obviously, and Arsenal obviously they went crazy with their signing of Aubameyang, which I think was probably the better signing, the best signing of the window, if I'm honest. Along with re-signing Mesut Ozil to a contract extension.
Don't forget, Mkhitaryan came as part of the Sanchez deal, didn't they? So they got Mkhitaryan in as well, so they have been quite active, Arsenal.
They managed to get something very good out of a very bad situation. But, so I think, the main talking point, I suppose, was that Arsenal deal involving Alexis Sanchez and Mkhitaryan. So we'll start with that. Manchester United haven't seemed to have improved, apart from beating Yeovil since signing him. Whether that is squad imbalance, perhaps, or Alexis's ego, maybe his attitude, because he was a very...
I honestly think... do you know what I think has happened? I don't think it's Sanchez as such. I think Paul Pogba's been... it's suffered more on Paul Pogba than it has Sanchez, because Pogba was, Pogba's like the most important player. He's getting on less. He's come for a bigger transfer fee, but he's on less wages than Sanchez. Now I wonder if there's a little bit of rivalry between the two.
Well, this is what caused Manchester City to back out of the deal. The deal was done and ready to go, and then all of a sudden, Alexis's agent said, "Oh yeah, we want more money. We want to be the highest paid player on the team." And Manchester City said, "We're 16 points. Well, at the time they were 12 points clear at the top of the table." And you're asking us to pay you, somebody who hasn't kick to football for us to make you the highest paid player on the squad, yet we have players who have been here for much longer and have contributed a lot more on less money? No. Which
I think, do you know what? I mean, I expected him to go to Man City, but I'm sort of glad he hasn't, because I want to give credit to City. Pep Guardiola, that's clever management from Pep Guardiola, because he knows that the squad he's got is more than capable enough, and they're going to win the league. They're practically through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They're in the League Cup final. They're in the FA Cup. I think they have a good chance of winning at least 3 out of 4 trophies this year. They're playing some exhilarating football.
Yeah.
They don't need to sign Alexis Sanchez.
No.
They've got a good enough squad there. They don't need Sanchez.
No.
And I think they've dodged a real bullet there.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of credit has to go to City for them turning around and just saying, no, we're not going to pay you the most, and then immediately backing out of the deal, because everything was agreed, it was all ready to go, and then somebody got greedy on Alexis Sanchez's end. Whether it was the player himself or his agent trying to milk them for more fees, I don't know. But it was nice to actually see a club turn around and say, no, you know what, we don't need you. The club had all the cards. They were top of the league. They were miles ahead in almost all competitions. Obviously, they've played their Champions League game and absolutely romped to victory in that one. So they could actually rest players for the second leg if they feel like it. But to make him the highest paid player on the team, yet he hasn't contributed a thing, and then you'll have a player like Kevin De Bruyne, who is clearly the most valuable player on that side. You know, Aguero's been there for years, and obviously various others, on less money than somebody who hasn't kicked a ball for them. That would be ridiculous. Could you imagine the fallout that would cause in camp? Especially if he was to throw a strop if things weren't going his way, and all their agents would be sitting there going, well, we should get a pay rise then, and you'd have like 6 players demanding a wage increase. That would cause havoc.
I think that's what's destroying Manchester United at the moment, because Pogba came as the big hope, didn't he, about 18 months ago, and a lot of things were expected of him. Okay, his first season wasn't the best, but we thought he'd step up to the plate second season. But since Sanchez has come, he hasn't performed to the levels. Now, whether it's just a case of can't be bothered, or whether it's a case of just sending a message out to Mourinho, why is he being paid more than I am? Why am I not getting more money? He's sitting there. I mean, when he came off against Newcastle, he sat there. He sat on the bench when Mourinho pulled him off, and he stropped, arms folded, and he was like a big baby. It was like a 10-year-old having to come indoors, having his ball taken away by his dad. Because he wouldn't have his own way. And I just thought, if that's the sort of jealousy you're on, mate, he should be lucky that he's a professional footballer of high class standard, playing for a top team like Manchester United. Okay, he might not be the best paid player, granted, but you're still playing for the biggest club, arguably in the world. You're playing for Manchester United, and then you're going for a strop. It's a joke. It's a joke. Regardless of whether he's jealous of Sanchez on the wages that Sanchez has got, I do honestly think, though, with the Sanchez wage issue, I think 500 grand, is it a week?
I
think that is ridiculous.
With add-ons and sponsorships, he's earning about
just
$500,000 a week.
So, I mean, the average person like you and I wouldn't earn that in a year. It would take us about 30 years to earn that sort of money.
So.
And he earns it in about, a week?
A week, yeah. He earns...
I've got to be honest with you, Chris. Football's gone mad. Football's gone absolutely bonkers here.
Well, this is just it. The bubble's going to burst.
There's going to come a time when this gravy train is going to run out.
Oh, yeah. When that happens, you've got clubs that are running, to break even, like ourselves.
Like Burnley, for example.
Like ourselves, or a couple of others in the Premier League that are, just about breaking even. There aren't many Premier League clubs still in the black and not in the red. I mean... the bubble will burst, and the clubs that have kept themselves financially sound will be fine, and it will be the clubs that are just spending money left, right, and centre that will crumble. But at the moment, the gravy train doesn't look like hitting the buffers anytime soon. Players' agents are getting more power, and players are getting paid stupid money.
I've got to be honest. I'm on my soapbox here tonight, right? Soapbox here today. I've got to be honest with you. That's another thing that annoys me about today's game. Players' agents. Too much power. The football authorities. This is where FIFA should come in now and take a huge stance against this sort of thing. They're getting too much power, and it's ruining the game. I think, you know what? the power of the agents have got, they should be outlawed. And I think that's up to FIFA to sort that out.
This is
and
the
they're just
reason
not doing
why
it.
a lot of people are now turning to the lower leagues and non-league. You know, you're getting a lot of clubs now in the, you know, outside the top 4 divisions, getting a lot of high-end attendances. You know, clubs like Salford, obviously they're backed by, you know, the class
the
of
Neville
92,
brothers, Nicky Butt.
but they're getting really high attendances. FC United of Manchester, the whole reason that they exist is because of how things were being run at United in terms of the Glaciers back in 2005.
AFC Wimbledon as well.
They saw it coming from a mile away, and they set up their own club. They've now bought their own and built their own stadium. They're getting attendances of 3,000 on a weekly basis in what is it, the equivalent of the Conference North now. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's they're constantly changing the sponsors of that league. I think it's the Evo Stick North or whatever. But they're getting regularly high attendances. The local clubs around my area, Braintree Town and Chelmsford, they're regularly getting higher and higher attendances now. And because us fans have lost connection. This is sort of deviating from my main topics, but we'll go on it anyway. We've sort of deviated, not deviated. We've been disillusioned, is the word I was looking for, by the money at the top. You know, the best example for me is when Raheem Sterling moved from Liverpool to Manchester City. Raheem Sterling is a similar age to me. You know, how am I supposed to relate to somebody who turns around to Liverpool and goes, "Oh, 70 grand a week isn't enough for me. I'm going to move to Manchester City because they want to pay me 125 or whatever the hell they were offering in the first place." I'm sat there scratching my head going, "You're the same age as me. You should be lucky to be on minimum fucking wage, let alone bloody 70 grand a week."
He also runs a barber. He also runs a barber shop as well.
Yeah, the amount of people that would kill for 70 grand a week there'd be a long line. You know,
I'll tell you what, that'd be good if he first moved that fucking door. 70 grand a week for 90 minutes
for
a week.
kicking a ball
Fucking show me the door, mate. Where is it?
That's if you even get on the pitch. You've got people earning that by sitting on the bench. You know.
I know. It is a disillusional thing. You know what I mean?
Who was that goalkeeper who was at City for like 5 years?
Richard
Wright. Richard Wright. He was
Richard Wright.
He played. He was on Manchester City's books for about 4 or 5 years. Didn't play 1 minute, yet earned something like £10 million from sitting on the bench, doing sweet FA for 5 years. I mean, that's just it. Like being paid to do nothing, being paid to warm the bench, just in case.
Well, at least he's got a good retirement bonus out of it, hasn't he? For just doing that for, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. You know, he went from playing first team football with Ipswich Town, sat on the bench with you know, but that's just it. The money's ruining the game at the top. You know, you very rarely get clubs like ourselves and Bournemouth. You know, really small clubs that are, you know, managing themselves financially very well and getting themselves in a good position. It's very rare for that to happen. And they're the ones that keep.
The other thing that I get disillusioned with as well is the foreign ownerships as well. I mean, Sheffield United have just been taken over by foreign owners. Barnsley have just been taken over by foreign owners.
Yeah, well, the Barnsley one was a slightly different sort of situation because obviously the previous owner recently died.
Yes, I appreciate that.
He tried to pass it on to somebody who he felt was responsible. But
yeah.
But there was that recent story about the former Portsmouth owner who owned Portsmouth for 6 weeks. He actually stole the buyout fee from his wife. He stole the $5 million from his wife to buy Portsmouth, and then obviously he had to sell it after 6 weeks because he got found out. So you get stuff like that happening, and obviously the stuff that happens with, say, Leeds. You know, it's just outrageous. But
it's not happening. Just happening in the Premier League. The Championship's getting that way as well.
Yeah.
So
it will start filtering down. You know, it's going to get silly at some point. But you know, you're looking at all these clubs saying League 1 and 2 that are sitting there looking up, going, I don't know if I want to go there. You know, it's like.
I mean, you've got to look at what's happening down the road with Venky's, don't you? I mean, that is probably the worst one of the lot. That is
probably one of the Leyton Orient. You know, you want a good example there.
Leyton Orient,
you want a team that was borderline Premier League is now playing non-league. That's.
And they're struggling as well in the conference. You know,
oh, yeah,
they're absolutely struggling.
It's tough down there because,
it's not an easy league. That
it's like I said, the gap has got smaller between all the divisions. And non-league is definitely no joke. You know, as I said.
When Lincoln went down some 7 years ago, it took them about 8 to 9 years to get back, and that was last season.
It did,
and they needed a good, and it also helped having a good cup run. I mean, knocking us out a year ago to the day almost.
Yeah, but it's, and as I said, the fans down there, it's all real. You know, you're connected. You know,
You are.
You basically
it's
know the
community.
players most of the time.
It's a proper community spirit.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so non-league is getting stronger in terms of the support because of the greedy gits you've got at the very top, and you know, as much as it's spoiling it up there, it's making it better down below. And personally,
Of course, there is. With a negative, there has to be a positive to balance it out.
yeah. But anyway, that's so. I suppose our take on money in the game now at the moment. We deviated from our main topic, which I'll swing back to now. So anyway, after we deviated from talking about Alexis Sanchez's wage being ridiculous, obviously that was one part of the deal. The other part was Mitrokian going to Arsenal, which I think is actually really good business, if I'm honest. You're getting
I agree with you on that. I think Mkhitaryan will suit Arsenal's play a lot better.
Mkhitaryan, however you pronounce it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll suit Arsenal's play better than what he did at Manchester United. To be fair, I don't think he got much of a chance at Manchester United, or whether Mourinho didn't know what his best position was there. I'm not quite sure, but I think he'll fit in well with Arsenal.
Yeah.
And also, I think...
Well, he's got his other half of the dynamic duo back, hasn't he, with Aubameyang, because they were a force to be reckoned with at Borussia Dortmund a few years ago.
They were. I think that's a very good signing as well. But I feel a little sorry for Lacazette because he was bought there for a few quid. And I know he's injured right now, but I don't know whether Wenger's utilised him enough because he's been starting a lot of the games on the bench. I just don't understand why you would spend, £40 million on a striker like Lacazette and not start him all the time.
Arsene Wenger's tactics recently...
I don't understand it.
They don't make sense. They don't make sense to Arsenal fans. They don't make sense to everyone else, apart from himself. Basically, you're sitting there going, "Why don't we just go two up top?" You've got Aubameyang's ridiculous pace, and then you've got Lacazette, perfect man to hold the ball up, knock it down, be a target for crosses.
Exactly.
You know, you'd think it would work perfectly. Or worst case scenario, you play three up top. You've got Mitrokian on the left, Lacazette in the middle, and Aubameyang on the right. And just get them to, be free flowing as a front three. That would be quite interesting to see. And then you've got Özil and Wilshere when he's fit. Obviously, he's been very good.
I have to say, can I just say, quick word on Wilshere? I think since he's come back and he's had a regular run in the team, I actually think he's been playing very well.
Yeah.
So full marks to him. I think he's had a lot to put up with the last 3 or 4 years, injuries and criticisms and the like.
Yeah.
But I think he's now knuckling down now and really playing some of the best football that we know and what we knew that he was capable of.
Yeah, but Arsenal, in terms of their attacking balance anyway, have got a lot better from that deal. And, they've got rid of a player who clearly didn't want to play for them anymore. And they've got a player in with a point to prove who wants to play, which, to me, it doesn't matter how good the guy is who you've gotten rid of. He didn't want to play for you anymore. So he might as well be on the bus. He might as well not be there. And they've got something, for him that... They wouldn't have got anything for him in 6 months' time, which out of a very, very bad situation, Arsenal have got something very good out of it. And
you say they've had a good window, but really they could have done a lot better, Arsenal. I mean, I've watched. I'm sure you do, and I watch a lot of Arsenal fan TV, as I'm sure you do. And a lot of people have said, why hasn't Wenger improved the defence? Because let's be fair, the last few results. Well, they had that humiliating defeat, which I covered in the FA Cup to Nottingham Forest. Yep. They've lost the North London derby to Tottenham. They've lost so many games.
Yeah.
On absolute poor defending, and Petr Cech's coming for a lot of criticism. Should they replace the goalkeeper? Obviously they've done well in the terms of attacking, but should they have improved defensively? That's the question you've got to ask.
It's easy to blame the goalkeeper if your defence isn't doing their job properly. I know that from personal experience, as well as obviously witnessing it ourselves.
Yes, of course.
We've had very good quality goalkeepers over the years, but some of them have taken stick because of the defence not doing their job properly. You go back to our very first Premier League stint. Brian Jensen, for that first 6 months in the Premier League, was unbelievable. But then all of a sudden, the defence stopped doing its job, and he was being overworked and was conceding goals for fun, and therefore got a load of stick for it. And obviously recently, the best example is the fact that we've had our number one goalkeeper out injured, and we haven't noticed because our defence is still working the same wonders, and Nick Pope has just stepped in
Pope has done terrifically well.
Not only has he performed incredibly well, but you know the defence in front of him is very, very capable of doing their job, and therefore he hasn't really stuck out as a standing goalkeeper, and he's not, by the way. He's a very, you know, when Heaton's fully fit, Dyche is going to have one heck of a decision to make. But
it's a nice luxury to have, though.
Yeah, but in terms of Arsenal, you know, their defence. I mean, Czech's been taking a lot of stick recently. Was he culpable of a couple of goals? Yeah, you could probably say so, but it's hard to criticise just the goalkeeper when you've got 4 people in defence in front of him, plus the midfield that's supposed to track back too. You know, they've got to be doing something. And Koscielny recently has been completely off the pace. He's gone from being wanted by Bayern Munich to being absolutely garbage. Whoever's beside him, whether it be Mustafi or Rob Holding, they're just shot to bits because, you know, whenever they're with Koscielny, they don't know whether they're going to come across a world-class centre half to work with, or they're going to come across somebody who couldn't keep up with a Sunday league striker. You know, Mertesacker obviously doesn't play, and because he's slower than Internet Explorer on Windows 98, and it's just. And then you've got your two. Monreal is the only decent defender for me that I've noticed. He works his socks off for them week in, week out. He's even scored a couple of goals recently, which says a lot when your defender's scoring more goals than the attack. And you know, Bellerin. I look at him and I'm glad I'm not an Arsenal fan, because I would be. He reminds me of Tyrone Mears. Brilliant at going forwards. Does not track back. As soon as he loses the ball, he just casually jogs back. You know, my Uncle Jeff, rest his soul, absolutely ripped into Tyrone Mears every week because he'd go halfway up the pitch, lose the ball, and then wouldn't sprint back. And that's what I'm seeing from Hector Bellerin. Plus Bellerin can't cross a ball to save his life, by the way. You know, what good is somebody who goes that far up the pitch and then can't put the ball in the box? What's the point?
Isn't he supposed to be the quickest player in the Arsenal team?
Oh, yeah.
He's supposed to run 100 metres at 10 seconds dead or something.
When a player's just pacey, you end up like a Bondahor. You get found out after a while and you end up playing in the second tier. You know, but it's
yeah.
They need a whole new, apart from Monreal, their entire, you know, play Rob Holding. He's going to make mistakes, but he's young. He's going to learn. You know, he's the future really for them. If Arsenal want to play the future game,
do you think Chris, they should have gone after Virgil van Dijk, which Liverpool snapped up? I know they paid 75 million, but could they have got Virgil van Dijk in? Would he have improved things, or is that just cut straws?
That hasn't exactly been the revelation at Liverpool, but yes, they should have gone. They certainly should have tried to go after him. He probably would be an improvement on what they have, but I don't really know what. I don't know who Arsenal would go after. Who would want to go to Arsenal right now? This is the thing. Arsenal are in a position where they're not exactly. I know they went and got Aubameyang and they got Mitrovic in an essential trade deal, but there aren't many players that are going to look at Arsenal and go, "I want to play there." Yes, it's in London, so that immediately gives it more appeal. Obviously, they also got rid of Olivier Giroud, which we'll get to in a little bit, but. You know, I don't really see many big names going to them simply based on the fact that their position right now is very uncertain. We're still uncertain about Arsene Wenger because every season seems to be like the last one, but then he carries on the next season.
He's like, I've got to tell you, Wenger is like a cat. He's got all lives in the bloody cat right now.
Well, yeah. It's like an AC/DC song.
I mean, if miracles by miracles, if he wins the League Cup at the end of the month, they'll probably ask him, "Do you want to do another year?"
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, he's still got a year after this one.
Because you wouldn't put it past Arsenal beating Manchester City at Wembley at the end of the month. You wouldn't put it past them because they've got a good history against City in the cup finals before. So it's not exactly okay to beat them in a Charity Shield match, but they've beaten Man City at Wembley before. So. Yeah. You know, it's not a foregone conclusion, is it? But that League Cup final, and it wouldn't be a surprise if Arsenal went and bloody won it. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, but he's like the ending of the last song of an AC/DC concert. It's just being stretched out, just just so long. You don't know when it's finished. And
I think he will. He'll have to go at some point. I honestly think
I would honestly think that he will go at the end of this season because I can't.
I'd like to think that, but I've just got this feeling if Arsenal win both the Europa Cup and the league, the EFL competition or the Carabao Cup or whatever it's called, I think if they win both trophies and get in the Champions League, he'll get another bloody contract. I've just got this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got this feeling nagging in my head.
Well, Kroenke likes his money, so as long as Arsene Wenger is making the money for him, he's going to keep giving him contracts. But yeah, it's the uncertainty about Wenger. Obviously, the boardroom power struggle that's going on constantly. 1 minute Usmanov's trying to buy the club, next minute Kroenke's just like, well, you're not buying the club because I don't want it for sale. And then obviously Kroenke is getting himself in trouble with all sorts of things like his hunting channel and various reasons that he's not spending money. It's just a mess at Arsenal, and that's not going to appeal to a top world-class level star, really.
It is, no.
So it's going to be difficult for them to get big names in. But when you say they need new defenders, what two centre halves could you think of that Arsenal could possibly get? And I can't think of one. I mean, like you said, Virgil van Dijk is probably the only one. But at this point, I'd just be saying, well, get Rob Holding in the team so he gets the experience and gets better. Because you look at, say, maybe Michael Keane, perhaps, would be a good... There's a lot of talk of Everton getting rid of him because it hasn't worked out for them. Apparently, Burnley are monitoring the situation but aren't going to pay the 35 million that we got for him, obviously. But, that wouldn't be a bad idea. You'd get Rob Holding and Michael Keane, they'd play together, get better as they earn their experience. But so many clubs are in the we need to win now situation. They're not willing to wait, so they go and buy foreign talent that's unproven. And then when it goes wrong, they're shocked. So I don't really know how you cure Arsenal's defensive issues. Maybe it's the coaching. Perhaps they need to look at their coaching arrangement. Maybe somebody's not doing their job properly there. But
I can't believe somebody the experience. I mean, you've got to look at Steve Bold's role. I mean, he used to be a centre back. He used to play with Tony Bloody Adams, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
What's he doing? I mean, is he just puppet in the background? I don't know.
Somebody's not doing their job properly, but
there's a lot of issues.
They might have solved the Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil contract problems by getting rid of one and re-signing the other. And obviously bringing in Aubameyang was a very good move. Obviously he brings that much-needed pace to the side that they got rid of in terms of selling Oxlade-Chamberlain and Theo Walcott. So they've got that pace back up front straight away. Obviously they've got pretty impressive attacking options, but they'll end up like Liverpool were, say, a season or two ago. Well, some people say that's still a current problem, which is plenty of goals in them. They just ship them as well. So you'll just end up getting loads of draws or losing from winning positions because you can't keep a clean sheet. So we're interested to see how they get on. But talking about attacking options, obviously they got rid of Olivier Giroud, which I can understand why, mainly from Giroud's standpoint, because obviously it's a World Cup year. You need to be playing to get in your World Cup squad. And considering how well he did for Arsenal, you look at his record, he scored over 100 goals for the club.
He's done well. He's done well in 5 years.
He put a real shift in. There was all this talk about Arsenal not having a proper goal scorer. Yeah, Giroud was banging them in, scoring some spectacular ones, by the way.
Oh, he scored some right good. He scored some right classics.
And they've shipped him off to Chelsea, selling to a rival again. Are we Arsenal? Really? What's going on? They're selling players to Manchester United and Chelsea now, and they wonder why they're going backwards. That's why. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have dreamt of it. Your best players would go to Barcelona or Real Madrid or Inter Milan. Now you're selling them to your nearest and dearest rivals in a domestic competition. It sort of shows where the club's gone. But good signing for Chelsea, obviously.
Excellent, sir.
It'll take a while to bed in, but they're getting a striker who works hard, scores plenty of goals. And they needed a target man, and they went out and got it. They knew what they needed. They've gone out and got it. So it'll just be a case of how long it takes for that to work. Although Chelsea,
they need to start betting it in straight away because their form up until
they're at risk of not finishing
the other day was not brilliant.
They're at risk.
Conte's under a lot of pressure now, and he's got this big game next week against Barcelona.
Wow.
I mean, that is going to be a real test for them. I mean, the only thing that saved his skin this week is because they didn't have a particularly good West Brom team to play, and they beat them comfortably. But the other week against Bournemouth, they were just shocking. They were all over the place. Against Norwich in the cup replay, they were shocking again. They were lucky to get through on penalties.
Chelsea were on par with how they were for the first 45 minutes against us, just not at it.
No, of course they weren't.
But they did it for 90 minutes instead of 45. It's literally. I don't know what's going on at Chelsea. I don't think anyone does, quite frankly, because you go from being champions the previous season to struggling to get fourth. Because they're fighting for fourth place now. There's no ifs or buts about it. that's what they're fighting for. So to get a playoff spot in the Champions League is going to be a tall ask for them. But they're capable. Obviously, they won the league last year. But
I just can't see it. I just can't see it because you've got Liverpool in a good form. They're scoring goals. You've got Tottenham now coming in.
Liverpool are knocking on the door of second place.
Manchester United, if they're not careful, they could drop to fourth because their form has been a little bit up and down with the Sanchez deal and the Paul Pogba issue. I think there's a lot of issues at Manchester United right now. I think some of the big clubs, maybe need to have a hard look at themselves because, Man City is sitting up there right now.
Well, yeah, that's
dodging a bullet with Alexis Sanchez, and they're sitting pretty right now in 4 competitions, and they're still in line to win all 4.
Well,
They've got the cigars lit with bloody feet up right now.
Well, this is the thing.
Pep's loving it.
As we said, they absolutely smashed Basel in the Champions League to the extent they could rest players for their Champions League game if they feel like the league match that's coming up is more important, or perhaps the League Cup match comes alongside it. But they can rest players.
They don't have another. Actually, to be fair, Chris, I can tell you straight away, they don't have to play another Premier League match until March because they've got the FA Cup this weekend, then they've got the League Cup final next weekend, the weekend after.
So they've got a week of rest between those 2 games, and if they have to rest players for, they can rest players in the Champions League, so the league match can be the priority because they've got 4 away goals. Basel have got to score 5 goals, and
they can rest all their best players. Yeah, they can rest all their best players now for the cup final. You know what I mean?
So but they're the only team that can that can relax a little bit because from 2nd to 5th, United all the way down to Spurs. Spurs are in 5th somehow. I thought they were in the top 4, but
I thought they were too. But
there's 4 points separating 2nd and 5th. So any of those teams could slip out of the top 4. If I'm honest,
my worry.
Tottenham have been very inconsistent. They're either really good or just not at it. Chelsea are, I suppose, the same.
My worry out of those teams is actually Manchester United right now.
Well, yeah, they haven't won a match in ages. So
they haven't won a match. They draw a lot of games. They had a massive.
Chemistry isn't there right now.
There isn't, and the Newcastle result hasn't helped. Paul Pogba's antics, being a big crybaby bumptins, that's not helped matters. I think there are too many egos at Manchester United right now. I think they could drop. Like a bloody anchor down to 5th place. I really do.
Well,
Arsenal have got no chance of getting into the top 4 at all unless they win the Europa League.
The worst ego of them all is probably Mourinho himself. I think he's the main culprit for Manchester United's problems. As much as, this is the thing, if he finishes 2nd in the league, this will be deemed an improvement on last year because they finished outside the top 4 last year. Yes, they won 2 trophies, but they were the 2 minors. He got the get out of jail free card to qualify for the Champions League in the Europa League and won the League Cup. The League Cup isn't really on Manchester United's radar, but you'll take it if you can get it. Nobody will lose sleep if you don't win it because you're Manchester United. And obviously the Europa League is a competition that you don't really want to be in because that means you haven't done well enough in the league to qualify for the better ones. So,
but yeah, if Burnley got there, we'd be absolutely celebrating all the way to the bank, wouldn't we?
I'd be celebrating it for a decade, mate. It would be unbelievable. But if they finish 2nd or top 4 even, it's deemed an improvement, which is why I don't think he'll get sacked. If this was happening, say, next season, after had finished in the top 4, I think we'd be talking about Mourinho being under the same pressure as Conte. But Conte is experiencing what happened to Mourinho, a couple of seasons ago. The whole reason Conte's got the job is because Chelsea won the league, going got tough for the champions the following season, players then started downing tools, got the manager sacked, new one came in, and they all wanted to impress the new manager. And it's the endless cycle at Chelsea. They'll probably be in the run-in for the title next season. I hope so. We don't, I want to see an exciting title race, not one that's like, this is what Scottish football's like. You get Celtic who just bugger off.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's not the only league that's actually a one horse race at the moment. You've got Barcelona in Spain.
Yeah,
you've got Bayern Munich in Germany. You've got Monaco, PSG in France. So it's not. It's not an isolated thing.
No, but
and then you can't really blame the teams that are up the top there because they are the most consistent team in the league. The league table after 38 or so games don't lie. And you can tell who the more consistent team is, regardless of what money you spent or what quality is in the squad. If you've got a team that are performing week in, week out, which Man City are, let's be fair,
Yeah.
They deserve to win the league, regardless of how many points they're ahead. So, let's not blame Manchester City or anybody who's at the top in the other European leagues for that. I mean, Celtic. I mean, to be fair, the only criticism I would aim at Celtic is they've had it easy for so many years with Rangers being out of the top flight.
Yeah, it's made them regress, basically.
Yeah.
But, the previous years, it's been fairly... Leicester won the league a couple of seasons ago. That's how competitive it's been at the top. But now we're seeing a team that are just, I suppose this is like, what was it, 2005? When Chelsea won the league with like 100 odd points, which is what Manchester City, I suppose, are chasing at this point, because they've already been beaten, so they can't chase Arsenal's unbeaten league title, which I don't know whether that's classed as more impressive or less impressive than Chelsea's title. To be honest, to me, the Invincible one's more impressive because you haven't been beaten. There isn't a single team in the division that can say that they've bettered you.
Yeah, but that occurrence happens once in 100 years, Chris.
Yeah.
You've got to be a massively special team. You can't. Human nature.
Newcastle and Sunderland can both boast winning a league title in the Championship with 100+ points. So that's. Yeah. I know it's the Championship, but
it's still a tough league. Still a tough league. It's the Championship.
Yeah, but the whole
you don't get any gimmies in that one.
No, the Invincible side I think is more impressive, but that's I'm deviating again. But I think we need to be careful that this obviously that the league doesn't get out of hand like this, because it just doesn't look good, if I'm honest. As impressive as Manchester City are, and everyone will probably be rooting for them in the Champions League, as they're probably England's best hope of winning the
well, Liverpool could probably push them because they had a great win the other night. So
yeah, 5-0 against
Liverpool actually don't do a bad when they get to the knockout rounds in the Champions League. Liverpool are always there and thereabouts, so you can't discount Liverpool.
No, but going back to transfers, we'll round this up. I'm just trying to think. Obviously, we'll talk about Burnley's transfers a little bit later on in the programme, but. Other big moves. Obviously, there was talk of David Luiz perhaps going to Arsenal. I've just remembered that one, but that never materialised. Would he be a good signing for them in this current situation? Probably, but obviously
probably not really, because he's a sort of player that likes to bomb forward a lot.
Yeah, and not track back.
He's not the best defensively.
That'd be great if Bellerin and him were side by side. They'd both bomb up the pitch, and you'd have the entire right side. But other transfers, obviously. Kind of major movers or not movers. Obviously, Mahrez had his whole spat with Leicester about not being able to move to City.
Yeah, that's another
a couple of hours before the deadline. Yeah. Another case of an overpaid prima donna throwing his toys out the pram because his
another bullet that
didn't get what he wanted.
To be fair, another bullet that he dodged.
But again, this is another case of Manchester City probably went for him because they didn't get Sanchez. So I suppose that's probably what that was. But
why would they want to go after Mahrez? They've got a good enough team.
You got Sané and Sterling.
I just don't understand why would they want to go after Riyad Mahrez. With all due respect in the world, he's a good player, but I don't think he's in that world-class quality.
No, but
I don't think he's worth £90 million of anyone's money. I think City's valuation was more realistic than what Leicester's valuation of him. Yeah. I think £90 million is not. He's too far on the high side to me. To be fair,
Newcastle made a signing, which is probably the most remarkable thing in Slimani. Yeah,
they made two signings. They got Kennedy in from Chelsea.
Oh yes, of course.
He actually tormented us in the league match a couple of weeks ago.
Much needed for Newcastle. As much as everyone in football hates Mike Ashley, much to Ashley's attempt to not do anything with Newcastle and sabotage them, although I still think he's trying to do that. I said it ages ago, like at the start of the season. Mike Ashley is the kind of person who will mess up the whole takeover so that they can't sign anybody decent in January, and he'll sell the club, say, March, April time when Newcastle are in deep trouble and they may get relegated because of it, and he'll sit there and go, well, it's not my club, not my problem.
Yeah, but having said all that, Well, having said all that, they've got a manager there that has got all that's got
It's whether he wants to stay in this scenario, because
Yeah,
I
but
can
I
imagine
think
it'd be
I
extremely
think he'll. Do
frustrating.
you know what, Chris? I think he'll at least stay till the end of the season, Rafa.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't see him. I can't see him leaving before then, and he'll see the job through this season at least. I think they'll be okay, Newcastle. I think there are worse teams that will be looking over their shoulders, and I'm talking the likes of Brighton and Southampton.
Yeah.
That really, really right up against it right now. West Brom, I'm surprised to see them at the bottom.
Well,
Because I thought they'd do good things this year.
there wasn't many other major movers other than that. I can't really think of. As I said, the Aaron Lennon one we'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah. Everton, I think Everton got Theo Walcott, didn't they?
Yeah, Everton got Theo Walcott, of course.
That was a good signing for them.
Nearly forgot about that one. Walcott needed that, and Arsenal needed to get shut of him because it just wasn't working. Considering
It
all the
wasn't
hype
working for years, Chris.
considering all the hype that surrounded him getting the 14 shirt after Henry left, the expectation on him was to carry on where Henry left off, and he wasn't even
He's not in
remotely
the. Let me
worthy
just
of that.
right. I think right. Nobody who was ever going to follow Henry was never ever going to be in the same class as Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry
has a chance.
one in a million players that would just turn the magic at a drop of a hat. Phil Walcott has got the skills, but I don't think Arsenal was the right club for him. I think Everton are a good club for him at this stage of his career, and I think he'll do well. And I think he's got a very good manager there in Sam Allardyce.
Well,
yeah,
Walcott was just there picking up his wage. He was comfortable at Arsenal, and I think that was the problem. So him moving to Everton, out of his comfort zone, will probably bring the best out of him, and hopefully Sam Allardyce will keep.
I think he'll prosper at Everton.
Hopefully Sam Allardyce will keep giving him the boot up the backside when he starts slacking off, and he hasn't reached the potential that he always promised, and I don't think he ever will now at this stage. But he can get back up to the heights where he was scoring quite a lot of goals for Arsenal a few years ago, when they still had Robin van Persie, but that was about as good as it got, really. Other than that, wasn't really. Oh, and obviously, as you mentioned, Virgil van Dijk right at the start of the window for 75 million. Wouldn't call that a great signing because it was a lot of money for a player who has so far been inconsistent, but improving the defence was definitely on the menu. Although I do think Liverpool should have signed a goalkeeper, because between Mignolet and Karius, I can't sit there and go, well, he's a good keeper. The first thing you start with is like, well, the goalkeeper. I know I said the goalkeeper's only as good as your defence, but between Mignolet and Karius, they've both made mistakes, and it's it's been comical at times. I think there's a lot of talk of Jack Butland potentially going to either Arsenal or Liverpool, which would be a big move for him, and would probably
but I think he's good enough to make the step up. I know he's playing for a poor team like Stoke, but I think he'll do okay,
provided he gets a good defence in front of him. Jack Butland's, he's a big, tall lad as well. He's not exactly, Tom Heaton's a very good goalkeeper, but he's only 6'1". He can't exactly be imposing. So he has all the tools, and I think the time may be coming for him to make that next step into a bigger club. No disrespect to Stoke, but much like we are in terms of Burnley, we're a stepping stone for a lot of players, and it would be a good opportunity for him. But credit to Butland, he has said that he is very much focused on Stoke and isn't thinking about any moves, as you should. You're
of course, naturally,
for your current club, and any interest from the others you should just ignore, because it's not, transfer window shut, nothing's going to happen, so get on with it. But I'd probably say Arsenal were probably the best. It probably had the better window out of everyone. Sanchez was probably the most blockbuster signing, but I think in terms of what they got, obviously they got a pacey striker back in, which was.
We've actually overlooked one big transfer, which was the biggest of the lot: Philip Coutinho to Barcelona.
True, yeah, it was easy to forget about that one, but to be honest, everyone knew it was coming. Let's face it, if he hadn't...
Yeah, but I mean, the fees that we're talking about here is astronomical. I mean, £120 million. It's gone... This is why I believe the game is going mad. Because, I mean...
Well, he hasn't exactly done much at Barcelona. I think he scored one goal so far.
Yeah, but he's got a big transfer fee to live up to. I mean, he's got the skills. He's got the potential to be world class. I mean, he's got a lot of competition. No, that's the only thing. He's got Messi and Suarez and all that lot to get past. There's a lot of competition there. So it's up to him now to prove himself and live up to this big, massive price tag. I mean, Liverpool probably are the big winners out of this. I mean, they get 130 million out of,
didn't it? You know,
yeah, allowed them to get Van Dijk, which they wanted. So they're happy with what happened.
I mean, he wanted to go. It was fairly obvious, before the season started. But Liverpool weren't in a position to sell at that point. They didn't have a replacement in mind. I mean, obviously there's talk about Emre Can as well, potentially leaving for Juventus. That story's not going away, although, to be honest, it doesn't look like they'll miss him because they'll have Naby Keita coming in from Red Bull Leipzig, so he would be basically a straight replacement.
I don't think Emre Can is a very good player. I don't rate Emre Can. I'm not convinced by him as a player. I don't think it would be a bad thing for him.
He's quite a versatile player. He can play at multiple positions, which I think is
but it's not. But what I'm saying, Chris,
why would you need that when you have James Milner, who can do every position on the pitch? Literally, I don't think there's a position that Milner hasn't played. Emre Can is
not a world-class footballer, regardless of what anybody.
He's still fairly young. Got to keep that in mind.
Of course, I get that. But at the moment, I don't think he's top quality. Right. I don't think he's good enough at this particular time. I think he will be given time, but I think maybe it'd be a good thing for him and Liverpool now to part their ways maybe in the summer, move off to pastures new.
Well, he's out of contract in the summer anyway, so Liverpool won't even get anything for him. So it's not even in Liverpool's hands. It's down to the agent. Yeah, that's
that good old thing they call the Bosman ruling.
Yes. Well, the thing is, you'll see more players doing this, running their contracts down now, because then they have all the power. They can decide where they go. They can demand a high wage. You're going to see a lot more bigger players doing this, like Alexis.
I mean, Danny Ings did it to us a few years ago, didn't he? Ran his contract down and.
Well, Danny Ings.
Yeah.
Well,
I know we got $6 million for him by tribunal, but I mean, said all that, he was still out of contract.
Yeah, but I think he had a bit more class about him, because we knew that he was probably going to leave because he was very good at the time, but he made it quite clear that regardless of what was going to happen, he was going to give us 110%, and he did.
I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying it's. I'm just saying it as an example. I'm not saying he was bad about it or trying to be a big baby about it, because he was very professional in the season we had it. The last season we had him.
As you say,
he got us 10 goals for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
but he battled up from. He worked a miracle up front on his own most of the time.
Yeah, it's funny you mention him, because I'll probably mention him in a little bit when we talk about obviously.
Yes, he'll pop up in the conversation as well.
He went around it in the right way anyway, because he didn't. We at no point did he say he was going to leave, but everyone kind of knew because of how good he was and the way he had the right attitude about it as well. He didn't go and strop like Alexis Sanchez did. He didn't go and refuse to train like Riyad Mahrez did. He just went around his business.
He's done his. He still goes in the town and does his community work there, which is brilliant.
Yeah,
he's a proper footballer.
Yeah.
He's proper footballer, the way he goes about it.
The right offer came around for him, which was, Liverpool coming in, and he was doing reasonably well with them under Brendan Rodgers until he did his knee ligaments, which he's only just got back from multiple issues with. But he was doing really well with them, and rightfully so. He won a couple of England caps as well when he was still technically under contract with us. So but you'll see a lot of the top players do that now, because they'll want to get. It's all about money and winning trophies now, and it's just what happened with Alexis Sanchez was mainly it was about money. It's quite obvious that he went for the money, because that's what. If you went to City, you're guaranteed trophies. You're guaranteed at least one.
You guarantee silverware, medals, the lot.
Exactly. Champions League football, you're going to get a Premier League trophy because you're 16 points clear and nobody's going to catch you. You've got a League Cup final, so that's
So you're going to Wembley. You're going to Wembley, although that novelty's weared off with Spurs playing there every other week, really, for this season.
But a lot of players are going to do that now because it gives them power. The agents, they get more money out of it by going for the juicy signing on fee, and that's just how it's going to be now. I reckon. I think you're going to see more players. They're probably going to sign shorter contracts. You'll see players sign nothing more than, say, 3-year contracts. And then if it doesn't work out in those 3 years, they'll run that contract down and go, right, who wants me? And that's what will probably end up happening. It's a shame, really. But as you say, like I said, I think the biggest winner was probably Arsenal because they got in a really pacey, talented striker in Aubameyang, which effectively replaces Sanchez, and they got a really creative midfielder in Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, Mkhitaryan. I think he'll do well. I think he'll do well.
So they did really well there. Obviously, Liverpool made a profit, basically.
And Virgil van Dijk. So,
Man United got another
strop.
Another creative attacking player who can play
they've
out
got
wide.
I have to say, I think they're the biggest losers because I think they've got too many of those players right now. I mean,
they've got Ibrahimovic as well. We've got to remember, as much as he hasn't played, he's still there. The amount of egos in that room, along with Mourinho's. But,
it's too many. I think there's too many egos, and I mean, if you're like Bobby Charlton and Sir Alex Ferguson, who are like proper United legends, and you're looking at them and thinking, "Oh my God, it wasn't like that when we were there."
Yeah, well, Fergie will be sitting there going, "I timed it absolutely perfectly." There's no way he'd have turned around and said, "You want how much for this player? You can sod off." But that's just how it's gone. But yeah, Everton had a good window as well, getting in Theo Walcott.
They did very well.
Although it is taking a while for the new players to gel. Obviously, Newcastle will be delighted that they signed 2 players. So it wasn't a massively exciting window, but there were some big deals in it, and there were some smart deals in it as well. So I think the January window, in terms of it changing the league, obviously we made our predictions before Christmas. Just after Christmas. I don't think it changes anything in terms of positions.
It doesn't. Maybe the relegation zone. It's taken a few twists and turns since Christmas.
It might change the top 4, but I think we can stick with what we changed it to in December because I don't think enough changed, and the way how tight it is at the top, from 2nd down to 5th, it's far too difficult to make any predictions of that. So we'll stick with that. But finally, to round off the episode. We've talked a lot about everything else, but Burnley. Now
we had to get onto this at some point.
So obviously we've had a bit of a bad run. I was actually going to record a video myself talking about Burnley's run of form recently, but you beat me to it, John, so I didn't really want to look like I was stealing your thunder by doing the same sort of thing. So we'll discuss it together now. You're clearly a lot more, I wouldn't say angry about the situation as me, but because I've looked at it, I look at it as a bit of in a more of a positive light, I suppose, in the sense that I'm sitting here going, we haven't won for 10, 11 games, and we're still 7th. I mean, how is that? I know Leicester and Everton have matched us basically for results, which is really helpful. And Everton have sort of been tripping over themselves trying to catch up with Leicester.
Of course.
And West Ham, quite frankly, are probably the informed team more likely to take 7th off us than the other 2. So it's becoming a bit of an interesting one. But I'll start off. Obviously, it's our fault because we sat there and said we have a good chance of finishing top 6 this year, and then. Literally, we finished that video when this run started. I'm sat there like, we jinxed it, didn't we? It's our fault. It's our every Burnley fan that you can blame us. It's our fault. We'll take responsibility.
Yeah, we'll probably take
never
about
utter
50%
Burnley and top
each.
6 in the same sentence ever again in a prediction.
We'll take 50% each of the criticism.
Yeah,
Mark my words on that.
But. Like I said, we had some difficult fixtures. Obviously, we played Manchester United twice in a month. We played City, which we somehow got a draw out of.
We did well against them.
We had some tough fixtures. Tottenham as well, I think, where we lost 3-0. It was we had some of the big teams.
Unfortunately, this is coincided with some of the worst refereeing, and this is not an excuse, by the way. We have suffered for the last sort of 12, 15 games. The worst, most bentest of refereeing decisions ever. The dive against Arsenal, they got a penalty they shouldn't have got. The Dele Alli dive at Turf Moor against Tottenham, that wasn't a penalty. You know, there was massive decisions that went against us against Manchester United. The list is endless with the refereeing decisions. A penalty that we should have had at Huddersfield when Henrik was taken out quite categorically.
Yep.
That would have got us 3 points there and possibly kept us up on that occasion. So, not that I'm using it as an excuse, but we have had some bent refereeing going against us. But that's not the excuse.
We've always made our own luck because we've never had any help in terms of dodgy refereeing. I've probably seen it once. In fact, about 5 years.
In fact, looking over the season, I think probably the only side in Britain it's not had a penalty yet.
Yeah, we haven't had a penalty for nearly 2 years. When was the last time we had a penalty? I can't remember. Well, we had a penalty in the League Cup, but not in the Premier League. You know, Chris Wood.
Yeah.
One of his 4 goals this year, I think. No, he's got 6, but 2 of them were in the League Cup. So
yeah, against Leeds, funnily enough.
Touching on obviously Chris Wood, him being injured. Obviously, as I said, we played some big teams. We didn't perform against the teams that were around us, but
I think that's my biggest. That's what's upset me the most because
we'll discuss that before the injuries, which I'm not.
I'm not going to put the injuries as an excuse because I think the team the people that are in possession of the shirt should be doing an awful lot better. But we're putting a very good shifts against the bigger teams like your Manchester United, your Man Cities. I mean, we got a point from Man City for heaven's sake. Should have had a point against Liverpool, but obviously another bent decision took that away from us. Was Karius in an offside? Was what's his name offside? I don't know.
I was going to say, was Liverpool's goalkeeper offside? It's not Karius.
I was thinking, no, I got him mixed up then. I'm trying to think who it was, but I can't remember now.
What, Firmino?
No, it wasn't Firmino. It was one of the centre-backs. It wasn't Lovren, it was the other one. And it wasn't Virgil. Before Virgil van Dijk came.
Matip?
No.
I'm trying to think of all the defenders that they've had this season. I can't remember, if I'm honest.
Well, it was one of those defenders. He looked at the goal scorer anyway. He looked at back a couple of yards offside. We should have had a point there. Man City, we were cheated out the FA Cup by because of a quickly taken free kick, which I think was not right because, first of all, I don't think it should have been taken from that. I thought it was taken from the wrong spot to start with. And then secondly, the referee didn't allow us to get ready and just let Manchester City have the way. But, you know, not that it would have affected the outcome of the game. But we put in shifts against the bigger teams. But now when we played the Swanseas and the Crystal Palaces and the Newcastles of this world, you know, our attitude to those games, we just took them for granted. Well. And we've come out of a possible 12 points, we've ended up with just 2.
We don't do very well as the favourites. There's something that I've learned literally the last 5 years or so. Whenever we're the favourites to win a match, we do absolutely rubbish.
You'd have thought
when we're the underdog, we do really well. So,
you'd have thought, though, after Lincoln in the Cup last year, we'd have learnt some lessons, you know, for heaven's sake.
Well,
there are some lessons that are just not being learnt. Now, I know we've had a good season, and even, I mean, I said in my own video, well, Darren Bentley said to me, because I was complaining about being knocked out the FA Cup, he said, oh, don't worry about being knocked out the FA Cup, we're on the verge of making history. What, finishing 7th? Don't get me wrong, it's the highest position we'll have for many, many years. But it's not history making. It's not. I mean, if you're going to make history, you win a trophy. I mean, I'm not expecting us to win an FA Cup, but I would expect us to do more better. I don't think we take. I think that's a negative attitude to that. I also, I believe when we play the smaller teams, we just tend to think, oh well, we've got 3 points in the bag here. Well, you know. It's a given, but I mean, I tell you what. Now I've got just over a week to prepare for Southampton next weekend, and I'll tell you something now. If we can win that game, the season is safe for me. We'll be fine, no problems, right? But if we lose, then I think we should be realistically now looking over our shoulders because if we're not careful, Chris, and I know we've got 36 points.
Well, you've got to get to 40. That's what I've been saying all season. Get to 40 points. We can worry about where we finish after that. Yeah,
I honestly think the more we keep not winning, because the teams now at there's certain teams now that are winning, like the Bournemouths and your West Hams and that.
Yep.
They're sneaking us up, and they're gonna drag us into a relegation bite. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I mean, we're 7th for heaven's sake, but mathematically we're not safe.
No.
Even on 36 points, which in some years has been enough to keep teams in the division, but we need to hit that big four. We need to keep that big 4 all. I mean, if we can beat Southampton, it takes us to 39 points, and then we only realistically need to draw another one of those games, and we will be mathematically safe. But
well, we've got a lot of winnable fixtures coming up to round off the season. I mean, apart from I think we play Arsenal as our penultimate game, which could be an interesting game considering what position we could both be in. You know, if we haven't picked up enough points between now and then, I'll be very disappointed. But you know,
I'll tell you what, if we're 7th going into that last game of the season, I'll tell you what, if we're 7th still going into that last game of the season, and Arsenal have won the trophy, the League Cup or whatever they won. I mean, I think that's a extra European place up for grabs in there. In Burnley, because still, realistically, finishing a Europa spot.
Man City or Arsenal are going to win it, and they're both already in the top 6. So I think it's either that or whoever wins the FA Cup has to be top 6 as well, and then it makes 7th a Europa League spot. But
also, if Arsenal win the Europa League, they're going to go into the Champions League, so you're going to have an extra European spot. And if Burnley finish 7th,
well, no, it won't give us an extra one, I don't think.
I would have thought so.
No, because we only got 2 teams in the Europa League this year, I think. Because we only got Everton and Arsenal. It didn't extend it down. But I think that's because who won?
Manchester United finished 5th and won the Europa League.
Yeah, but I'm trying. Who won the League Cup last year?
Manchester United.
And the FA Cup was
Arsenal.
Was it Arsenal?
Yeah, it was. They beat Chelsea 2-1.
Yeah, of course. Well, I don't know how it works because it's constantly changing. There have to be certain permutations. I mean, sometimes we get an extra team in down to fair play as well. So it's it's really down to.
I mean, moving it back to Burnley, right? The transfer window's been. I mean, we brought 2 quality players in. We needed wingers. We got them.
Well, if I just roll us back a sec because I talk about the results that we had. Cause,
yeah, please. If you want. Yeah.
I know you weren't particularly happy with how we've done. I'm obviously going to mention the injuries because it was funny how Manchester City rocked up to Turf Moor and complained, "Oh, we can only name 6 substitutes because we've suffered so many injuries." And I'm sat there like, "Sorry, how many have you got? You've got 6 or 7 injuries, and you can't name a full bench." Oh, let me just reel off the names of injuries we've got. We've got 9 players out injured that would be first team quality. Dean Marnie's been out for the best part of 2 years. Tom Heaton's been, obviously, with his dislocated shoulder. Tarkowski and me have been injured left, right and centre, obviously rotating themselves with Kevin Long. And then you've got, obviously, Stephen Defoe's out. Robbie Brady's out. Chris Wood is out. Jonathan Walters is out still with knee problems.
He's not a big miss, to be fair.
Who else was... Matt Lowton's only just come back from injury, and so is Stephen
Moore. He's back in the team now.
Yeah, so that was 10 players. Flipping, and Manchester City rocking up with their massive squad and stupid youth facilities that you could literally, tons of players you could pick from, and you're whinging about 6 players that you can only name on the bench. Get out, Pep. That's you're spoilt. But considering the injuries that we've had, most of our first team isn't our main first team. The constants have obviously been Jack Cork, one of the 2 centre backs, either Tarkowski or me. Nick Pope has probably been the most consistent performer because you can't change the goalkeeper really unless they're injured.
Can I just throw Johan Berg Gudmundsen's name into the ring? Because I honestly think, even despite the winless run we've been on, he has been Mr. Consistent. He's been consistent as hell. He really has.
I was one of his biggest critics at the start of the season. I didn't think he was good enough to start in the
I'm
Premier
surprised at you for thinking that, because I honestly thought he was a very good footballer. He's got a very good attitude. He gets on with the job. He doesn't moan. He doesn't groan.
Yeah.
He gets on with the job. I think he's a very impressive player. I thought we got him. I mean, the money we only paid, I think we paid only about a couple of million for him from Charlton. I thought that was the bargain of the seat of all time when we bought him.
Yeah.
When we bought him, because when you think about it, I mean, he played a huge part in England's exit at the last European Championships. I mean, I think he played a huge part.
He's at the next World Cup as well. But
and I think
all things considered, the injuries that we had, to still be 7th. If you'd have told me that we'd have that many players injured at the start of December, and we'd still be in 7th place outright, not on goal difference, we're there by a point, I probably would have taken it.
I think a lot of people would.
I would have hoped that we'd have picked up a win between now and then, but the win will come. Like I said, we've got Southampton's coming up. No disrespect to Southampton, but they haven't exactly been scoring goals for fun. Just a shame we can't defend for 90 minutes.
No. And they don't have a very... To be fair, I'll be honest with you, they don't have a very good record at Turf Moor. I mean, in the 2 Premier League games at Turf Moor, we've won the last 2 both by a single goal. I think Barnes got the winner 3 years ago. And then last year, Joey Barton on his comeback scored a deflected 3-kick to win us the match then. And they were both tight contests, to be fair, but we managed to get the edge in both those games. And we've already beaten them as well this season at St Mary's, which I didn't think would happen. So we've got previous. But I just want to just hark back to the teams that we've been playing. I do think some of the attitudes in certain games has not been good enough. I have to say, Swansea I thought was the worst performance of the season, bar none, because we just didn't look like scoring. Barnes has been found out. Volks has been found out. I mean, there's got to be question marks against them too. Well, and then you've got then there's been Phil Bardsley a few games before that. 2 goals he's culpable of. He's cost us points. 1 against Palace.
This is just it.
It made us look like the team we were in relegation form, and they were playing in 7th.
Well, this is it.
So you look at it like that.
Our squad depth right now is being tested to the limit, and the squad, in terms of the players that are starting in most positions, apart from obviously the few constants, most of them are lower end of the Premier League / Championship quality. But you need bodies when in the Premier League. You only need those players to step in every couple of games. But because we've had so many injuries, they've had to play more. They're being really challenged. Like Kevin Long is a good example. He was really good against Man City, but against some other teams, he's just not, because he just
Newcastle. When he was detailed to pick up, I think was it Jamal Lascelles, and he just completely lost all. He just completely lost all track of time.
Well, that's just
and
it.
Jamal Lascelles had a free header.
The consistency of some of these players stepping in is, questionable, obviously. But in terms of the squad depth, this is what it is, I suppose. If we had our full first team available, I'd be very confident about the Southampton match. But you're looking... The recent weeks, obviously, we've had to play. We can only really play one style, which is by utilising a target man, because all our creativity has gone. Apart from Jack Cork, and Goodmanson, half the team's creativity has gone out the window in Defoe and Robbie Brady.
Do you know what? Do you know that video you did at the end of August when you got absolutely criticised?
Chris Wood.
The Andre Gray thing.
Yeah.
I think that's come back to hit home, because if we hadn't sold Andre Gray, we'd have still have had our pace. And do you know how many goals he would have probably thrived upon? Great crosses from our new lad, Aaron Lennon, and Robbie Brady when he was in form. You just wondered, don't you? Because because Andre Gray's got put on it again.
His first touch.
But he was scoring last year, whereas he's gone to Watford when he thought the grass was going to be greener. He scored anything. Wow. So in lies the difference. He's working with a bunch of prima donnas down there at Vicarage Road. Where at Burnley, he was working with very good professionals, hard working.
Yeah, but when you want £100,000 a week for scoring 6 goals in open play, you're going to get.
I'm not saying. I get you there, but we should have. I think as a football club, we should have said, look, we've done. I think we could have done it. I know, but I still think we could have done a little bit more to sort of try and keep him, even if he had gone. A bit more effort would have been appreciative from the board, but it's not to be.
It is what it is. We won't play.
I do think Dyche should have. I think there were better pacey strikers out there, and with all due respect to Naki Wells, than him. I think. Well, Dyche. I take your point that he hasn't been used enough.
No,
okay, I get that.
This is the thing.
But it also,
needs to give him more than 5 minutes to make a difference.
I get that, but he's not. I still don't think he's Premier quality. I didn't think about it. I mean, he's had, I used to have work colleagues that were Bradford fans, and I used to say he's not good enough, and they said why? He is a good striker. I said my response was, yeah, he's good. He's good in the Championship. He's good in League One. He can score goals left, right, and centre in those leagues.
Marvin Sordell.
Yeah, he's another Marvin Sordell waiting to happen. I'm telling you now. I don't think he's the right fit for Burnley Football Club. We needed someone with a bit more, we needed someone with a bit more quality. I still think we should be exploring the foreign market a bit more, because I think there are big bargains to be picked up abroad. I know it's destroying the
that would kill Brexit football then and there, if I'm quoting Liam, or Vizzy, as it's called.
Yeah, it is a bit like Brexit.
Brexit means Brexit. We don't, only British players apart from Stephen Defoe and Goodmanson. But
I don't think we've strengthened enough in the window, because Dash knows that we've got. You pointed out we've got 10 injuries, which is a good point, right? Good point, right? Now, a manager as astute as Sean Dyche would have thought, I need at least 4 or 5 bodies, right? Decent bodies that could come in and do a job better than the ones he's actually got right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's got 2. He needed wingers. He solved that problem.
We needed pace on the wings. That was something I've been screaming
that
for.
They were 2 good signings in Kundu and Lennon. Lennon especially. I thought that was a brilliant coup. Right.
Apart from the fact that he subbed him against Swansea when he was causing the most problems.
That irked me quite a lot, actually.
I don't know why he did that.
And then he puts Arfield on.
Arfield on the wing. Arfield on the wing doesn't work.
It doesn't work. He hasn't got a plan B, Dash. That's the problem. Now, I also think he should have gone after a centre back to take the pressure a bit of Kevin Long, perhaps. Now, Kevin Long is a decent player, but I think because he's having to come in and fill in for Tarks or Ben Mee every other week, it's a lot of pressure on the lad, right?
Yeah.
No disrespect to him.
Well, he needs a bit of competition, because he knows he's the backup.
Yes, and I think an experienced centre back, would have been a good thing.
We could end up bringing Michael Keane back at the end of the season, judged on what's going on with him.
Possibly, but he'd have to go to replace Tarks and me, or just bludge them out the side. Also, I think he should have gone for another striker, because I think we're very thin with. I mean, it's the same old with Dutch. He's got Sam Vokes. He's only got 3 goals. You got Ashley Barnes, who's got the same. Yeah, they work hard. They'll huff and puff and put a shift in, but they're judged on the strikers. They're judged on the amount of goals they score. And as far as I'm concerned, they're not done enough for me. And I've had my say on Naki Wells. I think Barnes and Vokes this season, I have to be honest with you, most defences have found them out.
Either, to be honest.
To be honest.
I don't see the point of Walters being signed. I mean, he's done nothing. He's got injured and has done nothing since. But
it's not big. I don't think it's a big miss. We miss pace. We need an X factor, and we haven't got it. Our X factor's out for injury at the moment. That's Chris Wood.
Well, yeah.
I mean, imagine how many goals he could score on the end of an Aaron Lennon cross. When
Robbie Brady was crossing it to him, he was scoring for fun. But he's been injured since December 12th. I think it was when he went off injured, and he's had.
And then he's got. Then there's the issue of Darch himself. Oh, he's got to be Darch fit. That's another reason I've got with Darch. Listen, I can't knock Sean Darch, right? He's done great things for Burnley Football Club. He's probably the best. He's been the second best manager since Harry Potts of all time, right?
Yeah.
His success is second to that. But some of the things he does as a manager in terms of getting players back quickly from fitness has to be questioned. And then you've got the substitution issue.
The substitution is the biggest one for me.
It is a massive issue.
He makes so many subs.
Tactically, he's no plan B when things start going a bit tits up.
I don't know. At the start of the season, we were doing really well. We were playing less lumpy football, and we were playing. I mean, the goal against Everton's a perfect example. We can play like that when our entire team is fully fit and raring to go. But
still, that still doesn't excuse the fact that he's still been inept tactically in certain games, like Swansea the other day.
What else can we do? Most of our players are injured. I don't really know how else we can.
But he had a chance where he knew this though. It comes back to my point about the transfer window. We had money there. Garlick came out in an interview and said there's money there to spend. So Dash had the money, and he had the recruitment there. Now, you've got to ask, what's David Bowen done in all of this? I mean, okay, we've got a big coup in Aaron Lennon, but we should have been. There should have been 3 or 4 other bodies coming. I mean, Newcastle signed 2 top quality strikers
a moment ago. Danny Ings. Now, I got shot to bits for suggesting we should have got him on loan.
I think we should have got him on loan.
Ages ago, I was shot to bits by suggesting that in the Chris Woods video. But he wanted to leave. Yeah, and it hasn't worked for him. And it would be the perfect scenario getting him on loan. We can't now. Obviously, window's closed, and they loaned out Sturridge to West Brom.
Now that to me, that's a strange decision, because you'd have thought he would, with Ings being further down the pecking order.
He played against Porto the other night, which I was quite happy to see. But
no, granted, but you'd have thought Ingsy would have been the one that would go out and loan, and not Danny Sturridge. That was a strange one from Klopp, to be honest.
Well, he must see something in Ings to keep him at the club.
Perhaps, but
yeah, I was shot to bits, but he's exactly what we needed. Proven for us anyway. Scored, what was it, 10 goals for a relegated side.
10 goals in a relegated team.
He knows the club. Having him on loan to prove his fitness and maybe even get back in the England side would have been a no-brainer. But could you imagine Danny Ings and Chris Wood as the strike force up front?
I could. I think it would work an absolute breeze. We've let him crossing the balls in from the wings and all that, playing some fluid football. You've got a quality midfield player in Jack Cork. I also have to touch on Jeff Hendrick's form. He's been rather. I think he has been I think he's probably lingered too long in the tooth. The only reason he's still in the team is Defoe's injury.
Well, this is the thing. It was. You had a really nice midfield working together with Cork, Defoe, and Hendrick.
And then you stopped putting him in the 10 role.
And Goodmanson on the other, because we were playing 5 in midfield for a while, and that was working really well with Chris Wood up top, and then Vokes or Barnes had come on for the last 10 minutes because they'd be fresh, and it would do really well, and that was working brilliantly. And Lowton, obviously, he's been the biggest miss. He reminded me of Kieran Trippier the other day when he whipped in that cross to against Man City, because it was practically
it was a beautiful
on
crossing.
the halfway line, more or less.
I've got to be honest with you. That's why I had the issue with Phil Bardsley. Because he
offers nothing going forwards.
He doesn't. He offers nothing going forward, and defensively he's so inept, as he proved against Crystal Palace and Manchester United.
Yeah.
And he gave a penalty away at Newcastle.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought it was a harsh decision, but looking at it again, it was the most clumsiest challenge you could actually possibly make.
Yeah.
So I think, and I also said in one video, in one commentary, I think it might have been against Crystal Palace, I actually said my opinion of Phil Bardsley is he should never, ever play for Burnley Football Club ever again. Because that performance against Palace was just the worst performance individually from a Burnley player I've seen for many, many years. Probably going back to the days when Stan Turner sacked 4 players on the radio in the old Third Division days.
Yes,
that was how bad it was.
But going back to, obviously, the whole lack of results and first team players, as I say, and Dyche's style was what we were on. Like I said, he's got most of his first team missing, through injury. There's only one particular style they can play based on the players that they have, which is you're flipping top heavy with target men in terms of Ashley Barnes and Sam Vokes, and you've got a reasonably pacey striker in Nicky Wells who hasn't really proven himself yet. So you're kind of like stuck with how you play. It's sort of a case of, well, try and get a result by playing really, strong defensively and lump it forward and hope you get lucky with a breakaway, because, Lennon's got the pace. When it showed, he was causing so many problems against Swansea, and only for him to take
He's
them off.
He's probably the best player on the pitch in that game.
I'm sat there going, why are you taking off our danger man right now? What are you doing? I mean, Dyche, I love him to bits, but he's angered me a lot this season with his substitutions, like 85th minute substitutions. What's the point? It hasn't been working for the past, half an hour. Why are you changing it in the last 5 minutes of the match? It's not going to, it's very rarely, just because flipping Sam Vokes scored in like the 88th minute against Blackburn back in 2013 doesn't mean you can get away with it now. That's flipping 5 years ago. I can remember Dyche holds that to whoever shouted at him in the Bob Lord stand, because he said he was on Sky Sports and he talked about, literally some bloke said, what's he going to do in 5 minutes against Blackburn, and he scored like 2 minutes later, and he turned around and went, And I'm just like, he's been living off that for the last 5 years. If it doesn't work, change it. Throw some pace on there. Nicky Wells might not be the best striker in the world, but that pace is going to be a problem for a centre back. If one centre back's focused on flipping Nicky Wells running around and the flipping right back or left back's being held up by Lennon, that means you've only got one defender to try and hang tight with either Vokes or Barnes, who are both a handful at the best of times. Especially Ashley Barnes with the old elbows. And so
that's the only flaw in his game. I mean, he's probably too physical. And that's why he gets a lot of decisions against him.
He's the modern day Kevin Davis. That's what he is. He's the modern day.
Kevin Davis used to get away with a whole lot more than what Ashley Barnes is doing.
No, but
I have to say
it's a bit softer these days. Kevin Davis was a good old-fashioned centre forward back in the day. Now he's a dirty player. But I suppose that's what you get for playing for a Sam Allardyce Bolton side. He's limited to what he can do with what players he's got available at the moment, and I can appreciate that to an extent.
Do you echo what I'm saying, that he could have done an awful lot more in the window? Because
I think we should have got ourselves another striker based on the fact that we've literally only got 3 fit ones, at least on loan, like he's done with a winger. Because obviously Brady's
I still maintain he should have got a centre half in to take a little bit of pressure off Kevin Lombard.
My suggestion to that would be get Tom Anderson back in from loan. It would be the easy solution now, especially with the injuries. Because we've loaned him out so many times. When is he going to get this chance? I mean, he's a local lad. This is just, if you don't try them at that level, you never know how well they're going to do. But in terms of, we definitely needed another striker, and a centre half, okay, probably would have been a good suggestion. I don't know who we would have got, but like I said, we've loaned out a couple, to lower league clubs that perhaps should be knocking on the door to play first team. So that would have been my suggestion. But the main gripe, I suppose, really is Deutsch in terms of his substitutions. As I said, not making them early enough, and. But other than that, I think in terms of the winless run, like I said, the way I look at it, considering the amount of injuries we've had and the teams that we've played, yes, we've played some teams that we should be beating, but when a lot of your first team is out injured, you've got to take every point that you get. And we've picked up points. We haven't just lost all of them. It's a winless run. It's not a losing run. So it could be a lot worse. We're fortunate that we've had the start that we've had, which has left us in this precarious position of 7th place, and team seems to be struggling to catch us. So, for me, if you'd have said 11 games without a win and you're still 7th, I would have been like, yeah, that's probably not too bad. But it's just the thought, if we could have picked up a win here or there, we'd be very comfortable in 7th rather than looking over our shoulder at Leicester and Everton and West Ham. But
that's the issue I've got.
We're in this position because of circumstances that are out of our control in most cases. The injuries, as I say. People will probably say, "Oh, you can't use that as an excuse." Well, you can if most of your first team's out, and okay, Dean Marney maybe not first team quality, but he was he's a hard worker, and he was definitely a mainstay in the side for a long time. As you've seen, the bench unit and the reserves haven't really been up to snuff. So it's been testing our squad depth, and it's quite clear that we need to get some better backup brigade in the next transfer window. But to still be 7th, as much as I like to scream and shout about how badly we've performed in recent matches, especially against Swansea. Swansea was just we ran out of ideas and we just ran out of steam, and then, as I said, the substitution of Lennon was I think that was the point when the match was lost, because we lost.
He added insult to bloody injury, mate. It really did.
We lost all our attacking threat when he went off the pitch, and to bring on Scott Arfield, I don't have a problem with Scott Arfield when he plays in a attacking midfield role, like the same role as Jeff Hendrick. He's really good there, and that's clearly his natural position. But when he gets bunged out on the wing, he's not a winger. He was all right in the Championship. That's the Championship. In the Premier League, if you don't have a bit of pace or that technical ability, You know, we've got wingers that have both, that have a bit of both. You know, Robbie Brady, he's not he's not slow, but he's not the quickest guy, but he makes up with that with his technical ability. Then we've got Lennon, who's got a bit of both. You know, he's fast and he's technically gifted. You know, he was very unlucky not to score against City. You know, Edison with the palm onto the post. I thought
that was do you know what? That is the save of the century. That
was a superb save.
The 21st century, that is.
You know, that could have been 3 points against City, and then we'd be sitting here like, oh well, actually we're 4 points clear of Leicester, and we'd be a little bit happier. But you know, that one win hasn't come, and you know, we feel a little bit precarious in this position. But I would much rather be precarious in 7th place than say sat around the bottom three. You know, the fans of those teams down there are going to be sitting there going, "You've got nothing to whinge about. You're Burnley and you're sat in 7th. Why are you whinging?" You know, just like, yeah, you know, considering everything that has happened, especially the last since 2010, if you'd have told me we'd be 7th so in February, I'd be like, "What have you been smoking? Can I have some?" So, yeah, as negative as some of it's been, and you've certainly shouted from the rooftops your displeasure. The positive view of it is, considering everything involved, the injuries, you know, the bad tactical decisions, we're still 7th. You know, we're very close to the 40-point mark. You know, we're 1 win away. We've got Southampton next, which I would be confident in us getting at least a point, but we should be getting 3 from it. You know, we've got to pick up 4 points between now and the end of the season, realistically, to stay up. And the games that we've got coming up, a lot of home games. You know, our last game of the season is, I think, Brighton at home or Bournemouth at home. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's Brighton. Which that is definitely a winnable game. So, but obviously in that they might be fighting for their survival last day of the season. This is the thing. We're coming up against teams now that are fighting more than us because they're in a relegation scrap and we're not. And it is shown those teams in the middle that aren't really competing for anything get shown up by those teams that are fighting for their lives because they have something to fight for. So, which I think is where we've come unstuck in this winless run. In the case of obviously playing the likes of Crystal Palace and all that. So, I'm not massively disappointed at where we are. It's just a case of it's the fine margins, and you know, Deitch likes to say that there's a lot of fine margins. You know, we've been there in a lot of those matches. We've not been beaten comprehensively. It's been by the odd goal. We've been in there with this ragtag of a squad that we have at the moment. So once first team players start coming, I know we're not going to get our 2 main men in Brady and Defoe back. It's very unlikely that
we'll resign to that. Let's be fair. We've got to be resigned to that.
The others when they come back in. The others when they come back in. You know, Lowson coming back in immediately strengthens the team. You've got Lennon and Lowton on that right-hand side. I mean, my oh my, that's going to be good. And next season, we should still... I'm not even going to say it. But, you know, next season, if we have a squad with Lennon, Brady, Defoe... I mean, the team, when it's fully fit, looks marvellous. I mean...
On paper, it's top 10. On paper, it's top 10.
It will be deserving of being a top 10 side. And I think if we were to get that one pacey striker in, and maybe another centre-back, as you said. If we got like that Danny Ings player back, or maybe even Jay Rodriguez, you know, who knows what's going to happen based on
that would be some squad. That it would be something.
If it goes bad and it suddenly becomes sour with West Brom, what's the word? Come home would be the best. Would be the first suggestion. Just
come home.
Come home straight away. You know, we'd all welcome you with open arms, regardless of what happens. You know, so.
You're like Lineker going back to Leicester, wasn't it? And then, as long as he doesn't start promoting Chris and start pinching Chris from a little kid.
He's invested in the local community as well. He's part of it. He's doing something with a Pendle Hospice now. He said something about it on Twitter a month or so ago. So he's invested in the local area anyway, as it is much like Danny Ings. I mean, if we were to get one of those, well, both would be nice. You know, the squad that we would have then would just be remarkable. You know. You got upcoming like young talent in Taylor, and you know we'll get all our younger players come back from their loan spells and hopefully be given a chance to prove themselves. You know we'll have a really good squad when everything's fully fit.
Of course we will.
When you've got 10 players injured, you know, all right, we haven't really missed Heaton because of Nick Pope being godlike goalkeeper. You know, it's just. You know, some players we haven't missed because some players have stepped up.
When we spoke yesterday about the Eaton Pope thing,
Yeah.
Now, this will be interesting. We touched upon it last night when we were talking off air.
Yeah, we'll round it off with this. We'll leave this one to the comments.
Now,
section.
I think this is a debate where the people that are viewing this could actually get involved with.
If they're still here. So,
if they're still here within, if you stayed on till the end,
if you're still with us, we love you.
Well done, congratulations, you get a gold medal. But what I think we should do is, what we should do is put a vote in the top corner of your screen, right?
If I know how to do that, I'm sure you will tell me.
Yeah, you can actually. There is a thing where you can actually vote or something or other. I don't know, but we should have a vote, right?
Or just post it in the comments. Make my life easier.
Yeah, post it in the comments below. That would be a good thing. And I reckon, who's the better goalkeeper out the two when fully fit? Do you think Heaton should get the? I'm a great believer that Heaton, although Pope has done terrifically well, and he's thank heavens he has done well, because I was a bit worried about him when he first come in, but he's proved me wrong. But I think Heaton is still the better goalkeeper in terms of shot stopping and distribution and handling. Pope is good at distribution, is good at handling and all that jazz. But if there's one weakness in his game, and a lot of people have said this, is his distribution and his kicking, it could be a little bit better. So maybe on that balance, although he hasn't played for a while, I would still give Heaton the. But I think Pope has proved in recent weeks that he can handle himself when needed to be, and I think he's done terrifically well. And let's not forget, he's on the fringes possibly of the England team, like Tom Heaton was. But I still think out the two goalkeepers, you would fractionally favour Heaton over Pope. But this is why we want to throw it out to the viewers, because because they've got an opinion too. They might think that Nick Pope deserves to keep his place, so they may argue that.
For me, because you can only have one goalkeeper, obviously. It's really hard to sit here and ask to pick between the two, because I flipping love Tom Heaton. To me, he's, I bought the gloves that he wore a few seasons ago. That's how, he got me back between the sticks for Sunday League, that sort of thing, when I'm needed anyway. And, he was just amazing. And Nick Pope's come in, and I'm sitting there going, Nick Pope's just as good, if not slightly better, because of how flipping big he is. He's like 6'4".
He is taller than two, actually, to be fair.
You think Thibaut Courtois is so hard to beat because there's 6'7" of him to beat. Same with Manuel Neuer. And then you get acrobatic goalkeepers like David De Gea who make up for that slight height disadvantage, much like Tom Heaton does. It's really. If you asked me to pick one, I don't think I'd be able to pick between the two. But Deitch is going to have to do that at some point, because.
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll be a nice look. I'll tell you something though, it'll be a nice look for him to have it.
Yeah, it's a good
luxury
problem to have. But the thing is, neither of them is going to be happy with sitting on the bench now at this point, because Pope's gone there and gone, well, I've proven myself. He's been injured and you've not missed him, so why would you drop me? And then Tom Heaton's like, I'm the club captain. Why I should be playing? I was in the England setup until I got injured. It's like, what do? Then every single thing that the goalkeeper does is going to be criticised to the core. The moment one makes a mistake, he should be dropped. The other one should play. It's gonna, whatever Deitch does in that situation, somebody's going to be unhappy to the extent where I think either at the end of this season or next season, probably next season, one of them will move on. And if I had to pick between the two of one moving on, simply based on longevity, I would probably expect Heaton would be more likely to go than Pope would, because Pope's young.
He's only 24, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a lot.
But Heaton's 31, 32 years old.
Yeah, well, Heaton's more or less the same age as Joe Hart, and obviously has aged slightly better. But well, he's had a late peak, whereas Hart obviously he's now on the.
I think he peaked too soon. I think he peaked in that
season at Birmingham.
Some 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but it's, as you say, it's a good problem to have. And I wouldn't be able to pick. I would have to flip a coin, and if I was the manager, my rotation policy for those two would be: if you concede, the other one goes in. So more reason to be angry at the defenders, because it would just be impossible to choose between the two. Because both of them, quite frankly, would probably be a good shout for the England squad, as you've just said. Because out of all the England goalkeepers that are currently playing, I can't really. the Jack Butland, perhaps, but Stoke have been stuttering as of late. Pickford's been conceding goals a bit, although Pickford was very good.
Joe Hart isn't even played.
Joe Hart doesn't even play.
I don't think he'll play again this season.
No, I'd be very surprised if Joe Hart gets in. But yeah, we'll
Fraser
leave that
Force
one
has
down
been
to the
conceded.
That one, so obviously post what. There's a lot to talk about. We've talked about a lot as I'm rounding this video up. Obviously, post what you think about everything we've spoken about. Obviously, if you're a Hull or a Tottenham fan, obviously your Ryan Mason thoughts. Obviously, everyone's thoughts on Jay Rodriguez. Obviously, I'd be interested to see what Brighton fans think of it, because I haven't really heard too much from their end in terms of what their fans think. Because, I mean, they surely must be seeing the same thing as us. There's not much evidence out there to prove it. You know, so it'd be interesting to see what everyone thinks of it. But obviously, Southampton fans, West Brom fans, and other Burnley fans, obviously, post what you think as well, because we all know him quite well. West Brom fans, maybe not so much, but they'll know him fairly well after a while. You know, it's not what you think of whether you think it would be in his character at all to be racist in a football match. And obviously, what you thought of your January window? Was it disaster? Did your team do anything? Arsenal fans, are you happy with how your Alexis Sanchez scenario ended up? You know,
I don't think happy would be the right word. You can't please a lot of them, I'm afraid.
Well, but yeah, just post your thoughts on all the topics we've discussed today. Obviously, we added an extra topic in there unintentionally about the money in football, obviously being outrageous. But yeah, so 5 topics we've covered. It's a very long video, so if you're still here, credit to you. You've done well. I appreciate the fact that you've listened to us all the way through. But,
well, it beats a curling match in the Winter Olympics, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's it. I know LTFs don't come around very often. It's a little bit of a monthly thing at the moment. Although we technically didn't do one in January, but we did one at the back end of December, and it's mid-February. So we're trying to make a bit of time to get one out each month, at least, because obviously recent events with me, college and work, and same with John, his work. So it's really
I've changed. Well, since the last LTF, I've left my job at the care home now. I don't do any more night shifts.
Changed jobs. That's how busy he's
been.
And
now I'm on till 5 o'clock Monday to Fridays.
Yeah.
So which is more sociable, which is brilliant for me. So it's good. You know, I have to do my trial. I have to do sort of an intro tomorrow, and then I probably start again on Monday again. So.
But trying to match up our schedules has been really difficult, because I do college on Thursday evenings, which is normally when we do this. It just so happens that I've booked loads of time off work, so I've had time to do it. But obviously work's got in the way. Plus I do my football at the weekends, and sorting out my room. If you haven't noticed, I've got a little bit of a different setup going on. More the fact that I'm sat in a chair, I'm not on the edge of my bed, which would have been behind me with all the shirts, but obviously the bed has moved, so I can't hang them up there. Now all you get is a very old newspaper clipping from our glorious day at Wembley back in 2009. Which
is it that old? Is it that old now?
Yeah, it's been sat there it's been up there since the day it happened, and I've never removed it. Everything else fell off, but that stayed up, so I just left it there. And that post is well, that's only been there for a year, but yeah, between all of that, obviously I haven't really had time, and neither has John, to get an LTF in, but we managed to squeeze one in today, and hopefully we can put some time aside maybe next month or month after to do another one. So we'll try and keep the LTF going, because it's a real fun do, and it's a nice.
It is, isn't it? Do you know what? It's been an absolute joy recording this one. It's been great to get behind the good ship LTF again. Yeah, really has. I said that on Facebook before we started this. So so it's been great to team up again. It's like
air our frustrations on Burnley as well was quite nice.
You know what? I feel like I've got some anger out of my system this year, and I feel like I've got some.
Your desk has taken less of a beating today, so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't beat mine because I've only just got it. So, but that more or less rounds it off. So yeah, if you've got any thoughts on all the topics we spoke about, feel free to post them in the comments down below. Like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed our content today.
Yes.
And, last thing of all is thank you, John, for joining me as usual.
It's always a pleasure, and thank you very much to the viewers as well. I'm glad that you stay with us throughout the duration, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Cheerio.